Hey, the YouTube. Good Tuesday morning at 9:12 a.m. Back up again and starting the vlog for today. Got some coffee going, milk, coffee, as usual. I guess dealer says he wants something with caramel tomorrow. We actually picked some of that up at Whole Foods, so I guess that's a possibility. Anyway, goal for today, I have a few things to get done here. I have probably gonna run here, I guess, at like 10 or something like that. So that's going to be the first thing. Then we're going to shop this afternoon. So I think in general today is going to be more of a late weighted day. Probably going to start getting stuff done in the afternoon and have a couple shifts tonight. Yesterday was a little bit different. I got everything done in the morning and I actually didn't get a lot done the whole afternoon, or at least I got a lot of other stuff done. So today's got to be a little bit different, a little bit more work, a little bit less play, because starting late and not quite as many hours in the day. So anyway, I guess the first goal is going to be to look through each of these lenses, get them fully cleaned, then tested, then pictured, and eventually get them all listed up. I'll show you what I list those each for, just starting off the vlog. Okay, working on cleaning up some stuff here. I have this kind of interesting one. It has like a Climax branded aperture, and it says Rapid Rectilinear 8x10, number 2003. Has some little bit of corrosion, that kind of stuff there. Have to figure out exactly when this dates to, but probably turn of the century or a bit before that. Could be as early as like 1885 to 1890, somewhere in there. Does have the standard aperture, which would tell me it dates a little bit later than like a lot of the early stuff. But anyway, this one confused me for a little while. As you can see, the screw to mount to the camera is right there, which maybe you can make that work through some sort of weird lens board system, but it really was not making any sense. And then I figured this out. I mean, element switching was pretty common back in the days, and possibly this setup was made to use it a little bit differently, but let me show you this. So you can break down a little bit farther, you can take off that top lens barrel and whatever, but there's that tube unscrewed, and I unscrewed the rear element from that tube. And if I put it back together a little bit different, like that, with the actual screw facing the back, we're going to do one-handed, so I'll do that here quickly. There we go. Now it's starting to look more like it should, and I think that's the key. So I'm going to do some further testing to confirm this is the correct optical makeup, but otherwise, this lens should be ready to go. I already cleaned it up, and it didn't really need a lot of cleanup, but we bought these in pretty nice shape, and should be good. As you can see though, the patina on the end of the barrel there, you can see the gap between the actual element and the end of the barrel pretty much matches, so I'm pretty confident that's how it was originally intended to be shown / used. A lot of these early lenses were unbranded / very difficult to identify. The earlier you go, the harder. In a lot of cases, some are like from Paris are pretty well marked. But one thing that you can do is actually take out the elements and check the sides for pencil markings. A lot of lens artisans, how do you pronounce that exactly? I don't know. Actually would mark their names or the brand name of the lens in pencil. Unfortunately, I can't get this one open, so that's not going to be possible. But that's just a tip for some of the earliest lenses. Let's see if I can find anything with that name and the 8x10 Rapid Rectilinear, which is the type of lens, but still might be able to find something. As you can see, number 2003. It's kind of cool. 2003 lens made by whatever company this was. Let's see if I can find it. Here's the only one so far that I found Google Images that looks very similar. This is a Matthews Special Rapid Rectilinear. I'm going to look at Worth Point, look at the images, and see if I can compare it a little bit more. So it's a very rudimentary mount, but has it flipped around like I was showing there before. It has a very similar aperture unit. Also, it's a lens hood on the end, but I think that's our lens right there. Here's some photos of that one. And actually, what I think about this type of thing is this is going to be a rebadge type thing. They're made by one manufacturer and then rebadged for catalog sales by another. So as you can see, is number 6044. If we go to the next photo here, if I see my mouse, it says Matthews Special number 547, which I have to look at Matthews, but that just sounds like a catalog to me. So that would make sense. This was made by one manufacturer and later sold by many. This one here may be a unbranded version, or that could be the brand right there. So I'll look into that company a little bit more. And another rebadge, there it is, Zenith Rapid Rectilinear, which this one does not have the outer ring. It looks like that's a replacement, aftermarket or something else, so you can't find a serial number on that. But there it is, seems very similar. And here we go, bingo bingo. E&HT Anthony was a company that existed for a very short period of time, from like 1885 to like 1901 or something like that. We've run into some of their stuff before. As you can see, the Climax camera, that is the name of this view camera, and that is where this lens came off of. If I had to guess, it was a rebadge by EDHG Anthony to be on this camera, which this one is not the proper lens, but it just makes sense. There's where it came from. EDHG Anthony made their own cameras, and they rebadged a lot of lenses, from what I know. Okay, I'm having a lot of fun looking through different EDHG Anthony catalogs, trying to find this lens. There's this really cool site that I found that has a bunch of the EDHG Anthony ones here. piercevobel.com/cam/catalogs-anthony.htm, and they have a good collection of all different years of the different catalogs. And man, just looking through these, you'll find some of the most interesting stuff. Look at this one right here, the photogenic pistol and magnesium cartridges, instantaneous photography at night, patent allowed. Apparently you shoot a cap out of this of some sort and it'll illuminate your photo, so you take photos at night. That's very, very interesting and very strange. But anyway, a couple more things here. The different Climax cameras. They made a detective camera, a portrait, large format camera, and this thing, they also call it portrait camera. Before I could tell, it was sold as a enlarging camera later on. So, not sure exactly, but just looking through some of the catalogs, see if I can spot it. Behind the 1891 one, they have the enlarging camera, and they have the detective camera. Detective one is right there, and the enlarging one's right there. I'm looking for the catalogs. Usually they'll list different lenses and things that are offered with them. So if I can find this listed in one of those, I can confirm for sure that's what this is, even though I'm pretty positive on it. Pretty neat. And if I can put the EDHG Anthony name on it, it will boost the price quite a bit. Wow, these catalogs are just absolutely crazy. This is an 1888 Anthony catalog, EDHG Anthony. As you can see, they have Daliber's Celebrate lenses. Those are the French, like the Petzvals and things like that. And this is just the cover, Anthony's photographic bulletin. And it's just super, super cool how they have this whole thing here. And of course, as you scroll down, you'll see all the different kind of, I'm not sure exactly how they made these photos. Are these drawn, or are they, I don't know. I don't know that much about the whole drawing process on old magazines and that kind of stuff, but as you can see, they have very, very nice photos of almost everything in this catalog. So that's quite a look right there, if you look like that. As the photographer look back then, you got some studio stands, you scroll down, you got that gun I showed. This really cool and ornate shutter. If you found that, that'd be really insane. Original price, $12, which is probably like, I don't even know, 1,800 back then, somewhere like something like that. Have to put it through an inflation calculator. So a dollar was somewhere around the $100 mark with inflation, like I think a little bit earlier this catalog was made. But anyway, lots of interesting stuff. This one actually has a bunch of text in it. Didn't even see that. Otherwise, looking through here, it was pretty much all products, which is really, really, really cool to look through there. There's the bicycle camera. We had a lens off one of those once. We ended up selling it for $1,200. That is something I have never seen in the flesh. You'd never find a bicycle camera, but we found the lens off one. Very, very neat. Okay, well, I gotta get out to work here shortly, but can you imagine finding one of these? Patented, 1884, 1887, 1886, all that stuff there. Anthony's patented satchel detective camera. Carried around this nice bag here, and it folds out into that camera right there. That is something else. We've had a detective camera once. That was really, really neat, but nowhere near that kind of crazy stuff there. Let's look at some of the prices on there. Obviously, the Daliber lens would be the most expensive, and those came in anywhere between $73 and $93, depending on what kit you wanted. For sale by all dealers. Wow, look at that. Okay, well, here we go. I pinpointed the type of lens. It's called the Platiscope, otherwise known for like plate photography and things like that. I was checking the 1885 catalog, and I was able to find this lens, but in the earlier design with Watergate stops. Let me see if I can scroll up and find that again. Just, man, EDHG Anthony were super innovators in the camera field. They had so many crazy inventions all the way down. There it is. The remarkable Platiscope lens. So this is in 1885. That's what it looked like. It had the Watergate stops, which are those little things that go in this leather envelope. We found one of those once, and it's really, really neat. But anyway, go back to this one here. Here's the one from 1899, so about 14 years later or so. 11 years later, whatever it is. But anyway, there's a late design. Now I just have to work back from there and try to find the first one with this integrated aperture unit. And that one will probably have less markings than the later one, like that one. And of course, on top of selling their own products, EDHG Anthony also sold a bunch of different cameras to different companies. The Combi is a combined camera and graphoscope, which may be easily carried in the pocket. I'm not sure if I actually vlogged about this. I think I did. But we picked one of these up the other time, and it is super, super cool. There it is. I think we sold ours. I have to double check, but it's in the catalog. $18.95. Yeah, I'm actually pretty surprised this hasn't sold yet. They're a little bit more common than you'd think, but as you can see, circa 1892, Alfred Kemper, which is the brand that made these, the Combi graphoscope and box camera. That's ours listed right there for $192 on sale. Pretty good patina on that one. Well, they're originally painted black. It's probably a little bit later model, but see they had this cool lens cap and also the back thing there for the graphoscope. We only have the base box, and I believe we have that cap and everything there. Pretty cool. Okay, so this is going to be kind of hard to pinpoint, but here we go. I just went through a whole bunch of these catalogs. This one's from 1891. And I'm pretty positive that's our camera. Apparently they did make a portrait camera earlier than this, but I haven't been able to find that. And I don't know. Either way, it doesn't matter. I'm pretty positive that I found my match here, looking at all the different lenses and all that. I was able to find the lens all the way back to 1891. And 1889 is like the last year, or yeah, 1889 is the last year they made it with the Watergate stops, and then after that they started making it with the iris aperture, which is this one here. If I didn't show that before, that rotates. Oop, no, it's going to kind of screw on me there. But anyway, it rotates and opens in the modern way compared to the older apertures, which would be Watergate stops. Let me see if I can get this to function here. It's pretty stiff with age, but there it is. One of the very early Leaf apertures. But anyway, I just really enjoy researching that kind of stuff. It does take a little bit more time than usual, but I find a lot of fun in that. We do not get a lot of these lenses through. Anyway, about 30 minutes later, let's get this one. I guess this one's ready to go. Let's get some more of these ready to go, and let's get it pictured and listed. Always fun looking at those old catalogs. I could look at those all day. They have all kinds of crazy stuff. EHT was a pretty big innovator. Give you one last little snippet here. Going back to the photogenic pistol, if you read through its description, that is just fascinating. So it gives sufficient light for an ordinary exposure or small group, and they contain no chlorine or potash, which is so it can be handled with no danger. The pistol adapted to the use of these cartridges is a strong, well-made weapon in which ordinary ammunition can be used if desired. That's the funniest thing ever. That thing is super crazy. I can't imagine finding one of those these days. I don't think very many of those survived, but very, very neat. One thing I really like about these big old brass lenses is that you can disassemble them for easy cleaning and all that. This is a Carl Zeiss Apotessai, or APO, Apochromatic, whatever it's called. We're going to look up that serial number here in a minute to date this lens exactly. But if I had to guess, I guess I'll put down an initial guess of maybe 1925. I don't know, just random. But anyway, you can take the rear element out here, and I just want to show you how heavy this lens is. I mean, I can't actually weigh the whole lens on my scale because I believe it's over 3 pounds. But let me just power on my little specific scale here. Just the rear element of this lens weighs 13.3 ounces. That's like almost a pound. That's ridiculous. So, super heavy, brass construction. Basically, just get that all cleaned up, ready to go. Very, very neat. And also, very interesting in this specific lens, this is a custom modification later on. I'm not sure if it was by a company or by somebody else because it's very well done, has a good engraving and everything else. If I had to guess though, let me see if I get this to focus on the right spot. There it is right there. This modification was likely done by this RV fellow. As you can see, a name engraved right there. And also very interesting, early lenses, they really did not care. Look at that light leak right there. They just have this big gap right in the lens. I wonder if that's original, or what purpose exactly that served. Did that allow for extra Watergate stops, or something else? Special effects filters? I'm not really sure. If that's factory, or if that was an aftermarket modification, I say it's likely it's an aftermarket. And there you go, wasn't all that far off. 1929 is when that lens was made. As you can see on the Carl Zeiss serial numbers place here, Wikipedia, you can find all the different dates according to the serial number on your lens. So 1929, I actually assumed it was 25 or right around there just because of the interesting brass work on there. Not a lot of brass was used past maybe the 30s, but anyway, very nice lens in brass, very, very large and heavy, and very, very cool. That should list up very well. Also interesting, on the rear rig here, if I can find it. Right there. I believe that says 0403. Yeah, so that's the serial number of this lens. This is the 403rd of this exact type of lens produced. And one more challenge I'll highlight, both in cleaning and just overall in these lenses. I'm not sure. This might actually be a single coating lens, now that I'm looking at it. It's kind of hard to tell, but it does almost have kind of a bluish sheen to it. But either way, if it's single coated or not coated at all, uncoated early lenses are a pain to clean because dust sticks to them like crazy, which luckily I seem to have pretty good dust reduction and all that in my office. Doesn't seem to be a big problem. But a lot of these, it can be pretty annoying. And I have another issue on this one. As you can see, that is after cleaning. And there still is a lot of stuff on that. So either it's single coating or not coated glass, it has some stuff etched into the glass. Mainly like a handprint, a fingerprint, some stuff there. I'm not exactly sure how that would happen. But I have seen that before. Fused dust, all that. It's not super major. The flashlight extremely dramatizes it. And it will not affect image quality, but it's definitely something that has to be described. Pretty interesting. And really, depending on the lens, I probably won't put the serial number in there, or at least the date code as it relates to it. But as you can see, 11,500,000 would say July 1970. And of course, this is for the Schneider Krustal lens, how you pronounce that. This is not the multi-coated one. That one came out in the late 70s, early 80s. But this one cleaned up pretty well. As you can see, I still have a little bit to do on the front. But other than that, I'll test the shutter. And that one's about ready to go. Dates from 1970. And that there, as the condition suggests, is a very well-working lens. As you can see here, let me try and wind it. Without looking at it. That works very well. That's 1 second. Here's a half. And let's go to like 1/30th. I believe that's what that is. 1/15th, a little bit slower, that's what I thought. Okay, there we go to T. Should stay open, as you can see right through the lens, and close. That thing is very snappy and in near mint condition. That's going to boost the price quite a bit. Very, very nice lens. And of course, this has to be one of my favorite things with these large format lenses. No matter how small and weird the shutter is, you can always clean it correctly because you can take off the rear lens element and the front lens element. As you can see, that's how a lens is made up. Front element goes into the front group of a pretty standardized shutter. This is a Copal number 0, and then the rear element goes to the rear. Very nice, and as you can see with that coating on there, that thing is looking real nice shape. And of course, this right here actually kind of confirms this chart. This says between 14,200,000 and 14,300,000 would be between 1986 and 1988. And if we check the serial number right here, 14,273, closer to 300, of course we get, let's see, would that be March 1988? Pretty cool. Okay, lenses cleaned this morning/afternoon. Got all those ready to go, but ready to picture them here. We're at 7:51 p.m. Everything that needed to be done in the afternoon is done, and now the listing night is about to go. My photo temp powered on. Let's get those right there pictured. And there you go. That's about how the photo setup looks. There's a lens in there. I have it on a cube stand, which I have obviously with all the cubes and stuff. Just kind of a clear one. Circular shapes tend to sit well at the angle on that type of triangular shape. A little bit heavy for that setup, but it should work pretty well. Let's take some photos. I don't know what is with me and battery doors, but I busted the battery cap off my other camera somehow, some way, the other day. And now my battery's on my camera. I don't know exactly if a button is being pressed or something where it's sitting, but it will not power on. As you can see, it has an auto shut-off feature, so that should be the problem. Try to turn it to get the battery out, and it is well stuck in there. If I put it all the way back in, what should be seated, it is pretty loose. So I'm assuming just snapped off the battery release lever there. Of course, it's an aftermarket battery, but I've been using these for a couple of years. Never had any issues. There's the first issue. That's going to be a problem to get out of there. I might just swap to my other camera, try that out for a little while, and see how it works. eBay photos shouldn't be a big deal. So I have a backup camera, but I probably will have to figure out pry break that off there. And there goes a battery. I mean, it's a $10 battery, so it's probably not the worst thing ever. But those have been pretty reliable so far, and I'm not sure what it is with me and battery doors, because that one is not working right. Yep, see, there you go. Twist it 360 degrees. It's snapped right off. It's too bad, because that's not going to come out of there very easy, I have a feeling. There we go. I definitely do admit I'm pretty rough on my equipment, but I buy equipment that can take me being rough on it. That's part of the reason I use these big bricks of the camera. But anyway, that doesn't look like it'll be too hard to release. I just need to turn that a little bit so it pushes down that metal part, and it should release. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. That's good. And there you go, that actually was the battery pack I got with the camera, so I'm not super surprised I broke off there. The good news, I can still use the cells, just remove this battery ender, and I can replace it. But luckily, this thing does have a pretty good safety feature. This button needs to be pushed in for the battery pack to come off. It automatically pushes in when that breaks off, and then you just get a screwdriver down in there and kind of twist it a little bit. It'll release this pin right here, which is metal. That's what I was worried about trying to get through, and it'll come right out. This thing was already a little bit loose, and maybe I even replaced. I might even put this on there. I don't remember exactly. But either way, this is the one that I got with the camera, and no, it doesn't seem to have a chip on the end there. I thought it might too. But either way, not super great, but not too bad either. Came out fairly easy. Haven't any issues besides that one. And there you go. Actually, that wasn't the one that I got with the camera. That's the one right there with the little notch out there. This is the one that I picked up. See, this one's loose. Yeah, I'm not sure what's up with that one. Why it's so loose. Might just be because that latch is broken. Yeah, that's just sort of how it is. I don't know. I find these DSTE ones to be pretty good. And of course, for a lot less, you'd actually pay for a brand new Canon cell. Back in the day when you could actually buy the Canon cells, I think they're like $150 each or something. Instead, I pay between $10 and $15 for these. They work really well. I actually have a longer capacity than the originals. I've had some originals that don't last at all because they're just old. So anyway, let's pop these in and see if I have power. I'm going to do this one-handed. Not sure if that's going to work or not. And there you go. We're back in business. Okay, and of course the other camera battery was going to run out, so it did. I'm charging those up right now, but I was able to get some photos done before that happened. As you can see, all edited up, ready to go, cropped, everything else. Kind of an interesting experience, taking photos of all these different lenses because they're on the higher end side, so I tend to spend a little bit more time editing, and also with the photos, just to make sure they are, I don't know, not really top notch, but closer to top notch than a lot of the photos I take. Put a little bit more effort into them. A lot more detailed shots, all that. Turned out pretty well. This is actually kind of interesting. You can see that once that detail loads there. There's paint splatter on the back of this lens, or something very similar. Tried cleaning that, and just once I took the photos, I actually noticed it's on the paint there as well. So definitely something splattered on there. I wasn't sure what kind of coating flaw that was. And that's definitely kind of interesting. This lens had an interesting life, I suppose. So anyway, there they all are so far. I'm getting those batteries charged up. Should be done in about an hour. And it should take just a little bit more than that for me to get all of these listed. I didn't cut these up, but I think there's like 9 or 10 I got photoed. Let me check that. Yep, just 10. Let's get them up and listed. Okay, first lens listed up there, $799.99. I'm assuming this is gonna go on sale for probably like $650, $7, somewhere in there. I'd have to actually add that up. But with our sales we're running and everything, priced a little bit high, and that should sell. Pretty cool lens. I might switch this first photo though with the second one. I was gonna look into that. Yep, I'll have to see how that looks. Okay, this listing here took a little bit longer. Just wanted to confirm some details and things on the lens. It's called the Platiscope lens, as I was showing before, and was used on the Climax type cameras. You look at the Climax cameras and they all have Platiscope lenses on them, so that confirms my thoughts on that. Pretty positive. I have that all described correctly. Lists up at $460. Looking pretty good. Again, it will be repriced when it's on sale, so that's why I priced a little bit higher. Plus, there's not a lot of these lenses listed, and we don't get a lot in, so I like to price those up. There it is. Here's some general tips on brass lens pricing. If you find them, can't find a lot about them. Usually lenses from France, Germany, etc. usually sell better than others. Some oddball ones, wide angles, that type of thing. But generally speaking, the key to tell if you have a very valuable brass lens is size. The larger the lens, the more it's worth. If you have a lens the size of a Coke can, like this one, probably not worth a ton. Well, relatively speaking. If you have a lens that's like that size, like this giant crazy thing that weighs like 20 pounds, you probably have a winner. Just generally speaking. And of course, that's kind of interesting that you say that, because usually a Petzval lens will be the ones that would be really large, and those would be equivalent to the focal length. Roughly, this is a 15.5-inch focal length lens. So a lens like that, a Petzval, would probably be like that size. It would be quite a bit larger. So this is a little bit later optical design, and that's why it's smaller. But still, fairly relative to lens size. If you have Petzval this size, it'd probably go for like $250 or $300. Some variables, but usually the size of the lens. Okay, well this is kind of interesting lens right here. This is a Schneider Krusnar, how do you pronounce that? Cymar. It's a convertible lens. As you can see, it's listed both at 150mm and 265mm. And that's because you can remove the rear element and use the front element only, and that would be 265mm, and you can use it with the back element, makes it a 150. So this is what's called a convertible lens, and I don't know, they're generally less expensive. It's kind of like the zoom equivalent of the large format World. Do a little bit of research though, I was actually having a lot of trouble finding this lens, and even less pricing information until I came upon this right here. KenRockwell.com, one of the most famous, and I don't know, I've seen it everywhere, camera websites. Schneider 150mm Cymar convertible, and there it is on a Linhof Technica branding, which was common on some of these lenses. This is the sharpest lens I own, and it was made in 1955. Pretty interesting. I think that's going to add to the price a bit, and definitely going to have me boost it, because I'm sure some people read this article and know about it. And if we go through the convertible ones, most of these are for larger format, what we have there, but this one here is sold for $617. That's pretty ridiculous. And some, here's one, very similar, actually the exact same lens, Linhof, sold for $570. So even though I can't find much on this lens, I'm pretty convinced, and even with the minor haze issues and things that it has, I'm definitely going to be listing that at around the $350 mark, a little bit higher than I had anticipated, which is probably around the $200 mark. So you always got to do your research and try and find what you can. Very interesting though, we don't get a lot of the convertible lenses, but they were the cheaper option back in the day, and generally are not considered very sharp lenses, or very good lenses at all. This one's the exception, I guess. Okay, well these listings took me quite a while, and it is too late, but there are all those ones I pictured, including this one that I only had most of the pictures for. I'm going to take one more and probably add to the listing. There are all the different prices on them, priced out pretty well. That makes a total of 9 of those listed. I debated about going to bed and get up tomorrow and start this up tomorrow, or just working through. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to go to bed. So, there's what I've left. 2 lens hoods, 3 other lenses, this Ricoh camera, and some enlarging lenses. Guess that's going to be about it for the vlog for today. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed. Stay tuned for one more tomorrow, where I'm going to try to finish up the 100 items, which is going to be quite a challenge. That's going to need quite a bit of listing, but in a concentration, all that kind of stuff, and also the $10,000. So I guess I'll be addressing that tomorrow, looking at that tomorrow. That's about it. Wheeler out. Goodbye.